Happy to be here and to present and represent Corvus. Corvus is a consultancy firm specialized in innovation procurement, and we're involved in Protect since the beginning, and also involved in the PCP Wise proposal, and we're also coordinator for the EFIP initiative, amongst other projects. Now leading and moderating this interesting session, which is actually about, it's given an insight into the public bias perspective for the PCP, which is, I think, a really interesting perspective. So really happy to welcome, first of all, Hans van Leeuwen. Hans has been responsible for the setup and management of the SAP Water program at STOA since 2015 already. They operate under the slogan "From Science to Operation," an interesting one. And they developed an innovation launchpad together with the Waterschapshuis, it's one of the water boards, which resulted into several remote sensing-based information projects for the operational water management practice at the Dutch water boards, represented by STOA. Happy to have you here, Hans. Thank you. Next to welcome Hugo Gonzalez. He's from Forum Virium Helsinki. He's head of the EU R&I collaboration at Helsinki Smart Innovation Unit. And for the past decade, he has focused on novel digital solutions for building the cities of tomorrow, establishing R&I structures for smart cities technologies, and supporting startup growth through innovative procurement programs like agile piloting and EU-level pre-commercial procurement. So welcome, Hugo. Good to have you here. And of course, you're representing actually several public buyers, right? Because Forum Virium is sort of representing several public buyers. Next to welcome Martin Tušinčina. He works for the Slovak. Thank you. He works for the Slovak Environmental Agency. It's part of the Ministry of Environmental of the Slovak Republic. And within the Slovak Republic sector, he's involved in the spatial infrastructural implementation, aiming to serve domain legal requirements as well as clients' practical expectations. So he searches for innovative solutions addressing environmental challenges via better public services, with possible utilizing geospatial information technologies at the location knowledge. So it's a whole mouthful and sounds really interesting. So it's great to have you here on board as well, Martin. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Valentina Schippers, Orpeco. She's from the city of Haarlem and coordinator of the Urban Agenda Partnership on Innovative and Responsible Public Procurement. And she's also chair of the EuroCities Working Group on Public Procurement. And furthermore, she's expert on public procurement. She's been, since in 2021, you've been coordinating the Circular Procurement Working Group of Metropolis region of Amsterdam, and you have 24 years of experience and still working for public authorities. So a really valuable addition to the panel. Thank you, Valentina, also. So before we get into some questions to you as panelists, my colleague Anna prepared a overview slide of the project, actually of the Protect CSA moving towards the PCP Wise, so the PCP proposal. And the first one is actually what I presented. I showed also earlier already, is how we went from 5 application domains and 7 challenges, focusing with some value techniques and functional analysis to 4 focus challenges through the pain point workshop, and then doing some SOTA and open market consultation and business cases on these 4 challenges. We actually came to the conclusion that there's an actual need to combine all these challenges into one major solution that could tackle all 4. So that's the major challenge that we aim for now in the PCP. And like I said also in my previous contribution, the aim is to burst through the silos and the bubbles, and to create something that's of use for several sectors and for several needs, actually, that could tackle several needs with the same use of the same solution and data and application. So that's the idea for the PCP Wise. And within, as a preparation of the PCP, we already developed no less than 22 use cases, so that's quite a lot. So you can see that that's the aim, to cover all of these within one project. It's going to be quite a challenge, but... And this is actually a sort of overview picture of what the PCP Wise is aiming at. I'm not going to go into all the details. The one who can give you more insight into this will be Hans, most of all, because, but it's sort of giving you an overview of how the different, because the main focus is, of course, the water management and using Earth observation data. That's like the main focus, but it is interlinked with so many other aspects that have to do with environment, with city infrastructure, with agriculture. It touches upon so many topics. And these 4 public buyers here that represent a larger group, but I think it's nice here to hear the story of these 4 public buyers, so you can get an idea of how, even though they're all public buyers and it's all about water and space data, they all have their specific needs and their expectations from this project. So that's what they're here to tell us a bit more about, to give you an idea how one solution can actually tackle, at least that's what we aim for, tackle several needs and problems. So my first question to this panel is, why did your organization decide to commit to a PCP in the water management challenge? And Hans, maybe I could give you the first word.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Matti. Yeah. Why is there a need? So with the Saltwater program, I was serving 21 water boards fighting water challenges in the Netherlands, being too dry or too wet, and also very, depending on the very difficulties we have now from extreme climate situations in our country. But what we found there is that even the water authorities in the Netherlands, 21 water authorities, they have their own cultures already for 400 years. And it also, they did not exchange the right language between each other. So that means that once there is too much water or a flood affecting many, maybe 3 or 4 water authorities, we needed to have more interoperability and also a joint strike fighter situation. So we needed to find out how can we tackle this flood or how can we tackle this drought which affects us jointly. Information is there very crucial, and certainly information which is uniform. So to cross our management borders, and well, that was actually the challenge and the need we had identified. And that's why the Saltwater program was also already started about 10 years ago. And we see how much time it takes to find the right building blocks and integrate it. There's a word which has been used many times today. You have to jump over the bubbles, and not only from the different domains like Earth observation, water management, governance, and so on, but you also have to be clear in all kinds of rulings. So what are the different issues, and are we co-aligned with each other? So we have to make appointments with each other, we have to make regulations. And so information is crucial there, certainly spatial information and timely information. And I think Earth observation has the overview, can have the timeliness, can be linked with models, and therefore also have a daily water messaging, like we have the weather messages every day and also the predictions on short, middle, and long term. We can also have a water message in those issues, and that can really help us to plan and decide better with each other. Also cross-border, so if you're in the same river basin, also with water managers outside your country, it's even more important to have the real same uniform water taxonomy together.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and what we experience within Corvus, at least, we have a lot of projects within the water sector, and we see the water sector as one of the pioneers when it comes to innovation procurement. They're always quite advanced and not afraid to move outside the existing borders. So that's good to see, and it's really great to have you on board also here. Maybe, Hugo, you can tell a bit more about your reasons to commit to the PCP?
Yes, thank you. So we at Forum Virium, which are the digital innovation unit or company of the city of Helsinki, and therefore representing different buyers within the Helsinki group, we use innovative procurement tools for many years. We started back in 2005 with agile piloting, which led into a concept of utilizing the city as test beds and living labs, which actually originated the creation of the European Network of Living Labs. And that has been done always in collaboration with different stakeholders, the so-called quadruple helix, so public authorities, academia, building on the expertise available, bringing on the industry, and also, of course, citizens and users of the potential tools and services. So we are quite familiar with the potential and benefits that innovative procurement, and in this case the PCPs, can bring into a city. Also, we've been part of the first ever EU-level pre-commercial procurement that was started back in 2012. At that time, focusing on healthcare, helping elderly to live independently at home. And since then, I think Mark has mentioned, we have 6 PCPs, currently 2 ongoing. One of them also building on Earth observation data to help cities to manage better their spaces. So we are quite familiar, and when we had the opportunity to engage with the Protect CSA and understand better the potential challenges, at that time there were 4 or 5 on the table, and ultimately it led to the water challenge. And we kind of scratch our heads a bit, because in Helsinki we actually, most of the common perceived water management or water challenges in general are connected to seawater level rises. In Helsinki, actually, our soil is rising faster than the sea water levels. And in general, in the Baltic Sea, actually the level of rising, it's very low compared to the rest of the world, practically. So we were struggling a little bit to understand. But then when we hear a little bit more about needs, we understood that actually it's a very pressing challenge for us as well. Among several reasons, one being the extreme weather events that are increasing in frequency, and they are quite erratic, so they are very difficult to predict. And they cause a number of issues, but the most common one for us is storm water management. So it causes floods, it can jeopardize infrastructure, it interrupts and causes havoc in the normal city activities, in people's lives. And of course, also it threatens some critical infrastructure and also our drinking water. So that we quickly understood that there was a lot of benefit to take part in this process and in this project. And also that our tools, we are quite proud of having a very advanced smart city urban platform, if you can call it that, and also a very advanced digital twin model. But when it comes to water management, we are quite primitive, taking normally hand-based measurements on, for example, water saturation in the soils and so on. So we saw a lot of potential benefits to take part in the project.
Yeah, I can imagine. And even though, I mean, Forum Virium is mostly working with the city, right? And
yes.
But a lot of the problems that you mentioned, or a number of the projects, actually translate also on a regional level.
Exactly. Of course, we serve the city, but that implies also serving the region, because we are not an island. And therefore, there is a lot of connectivity and joint challenges that we need to address together. And in this case, we are going to work with regional level and also national level actors.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned that your experience in lab and testing, and well, this is going to be one of the major challenges also within the PCP Wise project. So it's really valuable to have a party on board that has a lot of experience there, because that's going to be also within the project to test all the different use cases in the different areas, in the different use case situations is going to be quite challenging. But so it's really good, great to have Forum Virium on board as well.
Thank you.
Valentina, maybe you can spread your light a bit on why City of Haarlem decided to take part.
Yes, thank you so much. City of Haarlem is a beautiful historical city in the western part of the Netherlands. And we have a lot of challenges, and we really hope PCP Wise and Protect could help us. Protect already helped us with that. So if it comes to climate services of climate adaptation to consequences of climate change, if you look at the new buildings or new infrastructure, there are a lot of wonderful techniques you could use. For example, in the Rotterdam, they have floated houses, so, for example, so how does it work? If you would take a big marshmallow, you put it in the cup, and you put some hot chocolate in it, it will not sink, but it will float. And the same principle is also for this technique for floated houses. When the water, the floods come, the buildings will be floated in the kind of a construction without damage on the building. So, but our challenge is not new buildings or new infrastructure, because it's probably less challenge. There are a lot of techniques, as I mentioned now, but the main challenge is to adapt existing and older infrastructure and buildings and bridges and so on to the climate change. And we have a lot of limitations. For example, small, narrow streets or no possibility to green the city or do something else. What we really need, and it's not yet on the market, it's a system that could help us not only to predict and to monitor, to analyze only the water challenge, but also other aspects. For example, storms of strong wind, if they are combined, a lot of water together with a wind or a storm, it can make the disaster even worse than if you would take only one, only floats at itself. Or, for example, the heat waves and other consequences of climate change. So this system we would like to use for climate adaptation of existing infrastructure, but we could also use the same system for predicting maintenance. So I don't know if you remember the huge aquarium in Berlin collapsed with all the wonderful fishes. It was really a disaster. So it was because of the material tyrannies. It was made from transparent plastic, and after a certain time it can collapse or broke, and because of the more frequent heat waves, for example, the material tyrannies can occur earlier than you would normally expect. So it means that if the market parties could develop this kind of system, we could use it for many, many different purposes, for climate adaptation of infrastructure, for predicting of maintenance, and so on and so on. So it's I see a lot of possibilities. And what we discovered in the Protect project is that there are a lot of companies who are more specialized on water, and others specialized more on heat waves, for example. But I would really encourage and really hoping that all these companies could collaborate together, form a consortium in order to develop a system that will be not only from one perspective, but could take all these layers and all these insights together in order to make more holistic, more integrated approach. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's all about using the data available that you can have, or getting the data that you need and combining the data in order to predict or to prevent or to adapt to. So also there it's an interesting case. Martin, perhaps you can elaborate a bit on your reasons.
If I would like to summarize it in one sentence, the main reason why I was very happy to take part in the preparation was that I'm curious. I'm curious, especially from the fact that coming from national public sector administration, I understood that although I'm relatively newbie in the water and hydro domain, for example, under the ministry we have, I think, 5 or 6 agencies somehow touching the water topic, and we see how sometimes it's challenging to bring them around one table and come to the agreement for a certain question. So I do hope that being able to be nearby of this really, I have to say, interesting community and people behind the project, which is actually today having the final conference. I do hope that it will help me and my colleagues to better organize overall topic of water and hydrography management on the, let's say, ministerial level. But what's even more important is that after my experience more from geospatial domain, I understood that if we really want to have something tangible, and personally I like the solution where on the end of the day you have something you can stand behind, we need to really speak with people who are more close to the real life, I mean to the regions and local level. And I was very happy that within the preparation phase for the PCP Wise, we managed to put together the team from representatives from one region close to the city I'm coming from. It's called Banská Bystrica, and some people from cities in Bratislava and Spišská Nová Ves. And those people are really interactive directly with the citizens, with this day-to-day business, with the crisis situations, like maybe we will come back to that in a while. And those people, you see that they have real tangible experience from the practice. And then it's very important to speak with those people and try to transfer their requirements, hopefully to the solution where I would like to bring the experience that we've been procuring and implementing some ICT solutions. And we see what is it on the end of the day when you are investing the public funds, public money, and you are receiving from the service and software provider solutions, which if it's not well prepared, you are just opening your eyes and deeply breathing from your frustrations. So I really do hope that this project will help us actually get first hand with this new, for me, the new concept of PCP, because we have the standard procurements where the only criterion is the lowest price with all the negative aspects. And I really do hope that this project and the initiative behind and people behind will help us to make our citizens' life better.
That's a great thing to mention, that to help the life of the citizens get better. I mean, that's what we all as public buyers and all public buyers should aspire for. And I like the way you started saying that you were curious, and that's I think a good way to address it, because typically what we see is that when you engage into innovation procurement, you have to have a sort of curious mindset, a sort of pioneering mindset yourself, but also somehow some ambassadors within the organization who dare to take the step to go off the beaten track and to endeavor. And if anything, I mean, apart from the results from the PCP, what you gain in any case when you join a PCP or innovation procurement project is you get a lot of knowledge. You expand your network. You you reach out to parties you would have never talked to, and it gains you so much input that's of value in any case. So no matter what the outcome of the actual result will be, there's a mind shift in your organization. There's so a lot of side effects and spin-off effects that's it's going to be of real value of every public buyer that's involved in an innovation procurement. At least that's my firm belief. So to give you an idea, because these are just four of the public buyers involved, and there was a list in the that my colleague put in there to give you an idea of the whole PCP Wise consortium. Just to browse through quickly, I'm not going to name all of them, but you see that a lot of public buyers already committed to the project. And the idea is, because this is only slide 1, so we have slide 2 as well. The idea is to, once the project we hope is granted and is started, to welcome other parties interested, either to join as buyer or to be in a user observatory group or a stakeholder to ride, to come along for the ride and learn and interact and provide input and lessons. And so it's going to be also in that sense a really inspiring and challenging and interesting project, I think. Yeah, and here's still some organizations which are committed to join the stakeholder group. So as you can see, it's already a huge amount of organizations involved. Martin, not sure if you also wanted to touch upon the slides that you prepared. Okay, then we skip that. Maybe, I don't know, Mark, do you have the time? How are we time-wise? Okay. Maybe just you touched upon your needs, but maybe to check, do you have specific expectation, or specific, but some expectation? What would be your wish as an outcome for your organization? Could you maybe address that a bit, Hans?
Yes. I think it's twofold. So the overarching water balance monitoring using Earth observation have an actual image of what are the conditions. That's the real holy grail of the water managers in Europe, and that's very important. If we have that, if we have the direction of wetting the profile, of drying out of the profile of the soil profile, then we have very important information not only for the regular in peacetime management, but also a basis for crisis situations. And it could be a fast developing crisis like a flood or a wildfire, but it could also be a slow onset, as we call it in crisis management, a long duration climate change related crisis, like for example subsiding infrastructure of the city. Buildings are subsiding due to low groundwater, structural groundwater levels, but also it could be long-term wet situations, flooding situations, and that also have all kinds of consequences. The regular part, that's the holy grail. If we can manage that, then we can serve all kinds of other domains. So the firefighters, the infrastructure maintenance people, the water managers, the nature reservers. Well, the 22 use cases show the different spectra of those 4 categories: city, rural, fast onset, slow onset crisis. So we have a well-representative pan-European use case categories amongst those 4 types. And once we have this basis, we can link up to those different working domains. And I think we have to be very wise in the first, and that's PCP Wise, in the first 8 months to select the criteria of all the use cases and represent them in a few representative scenario cases, and with that we are going to show what the market can provide. It's a basis for our procurement. Yeah.
And they were aiming for the holy grail, so no pressure. But
we expect they can solve that. Yeah.
Okay, Hugo, maybe you touched upon already some issues that you're dealing with, but maybe you can expand a bit more on your expectations.
Yeah, gladly. I think our colleagues have already went there a little bit, and for us, the PCP can produce multiple results that go beyond the specific solutions. I do know that specific solutions are key outcome, but we see it in a more wide approach, because we need to activate and work with a broad basis of stakeholders. So we are not just talking about water management experts or responsibles. We are talking also about climate change and adaptation. So we need to activate our climate neutrality team and everyone that is working within those type of domains and plans. We need to activate urban planners because for us it's pretty much targeting infrastructure and the way we not just protect existing infrastructure but develop new infrastructure. And we need to talk or activate our tech people because a big basis of making this a success has to do with interoperability, connectivity, so accessing existing sources of data and our existing digital platforms and understand how they can work together. So just the process of bringing everyone on board and go over this challenge and domain is going to be very beneficial. It will allow us to understand or frame what can we expect out of this and also prepare ourselves in terms of knowledge, capabilities and infrastructure to receive the solutions so that they can be uptaken. And that's really often a challenge with regards to PCPs in our experience. And it takes hard work and the engagement of all of those stakeholders throughout the process. So not just at the end when you present solution. They need to be involved. They need to understand all these aspects and what it will take to uptake the solutions. And also, of course, even the financial viability of how will they pay for those solutions and in what kind of formats. So that's really a very good outcome for us by default. But ultimately, we expect specific solutions, no pressure there, that are aligned with our goals, which of course are to enhance the city capability to become more resilient and adapt to climate change, and namely this represented by these extreme weather events and our capability to manage stormwater. So in that sense, we have many challenges there, but we have framed, we try to be very specific in what could be our use case, going back to the living lab approach so that we can actually test and validate the solution for the sake of the developers, but also for the sake of the uptakers. So we thought about this soil, water level management in the soils, because it has many levels of impact. It's really an important issue to be addressed, because currently we do this in a very old-fashioned way where we have people going into specific measurement points across the city and take actual hand measurements of the water levels there. So we see that there is a lot of room for improvement to make it more automated and to also make it more, to give us better information about the different aspects that correlate to the water levels in general. So it's not just inside specific areas of the city. It should be seen from a regional perspective, probably even macro-regional perspective, and also with current capabilities of maybe the Earth observation data, align with other sensory data that we have available. We believe that we could actually have better tools for forecasting and modeling these events and also how to mitigate them in the best way possible. So we are looking forward to concrete solutions that can utilize existing sources of data, access additional sources of data, and translate that into solutions that allow us to have visualize and have possibly modeling and scenario tools to be able to adjust our plans and also, of course, our infrastructure to be able to solve these challenges. So that's what we expect out of this process.
Yeah, that's great. So it's not only about solving problems that already exist or just simply arise, but also to use the data to prevent, to plan
yes.
ahead.
Which is very important because we should be preventative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That could use, in that way, a huge impact. Valentina, you want to elaborate a bit more about the expectations from City of Haarlem?
Yes, thank you so much. So this system should combine different data, water, but also drought, on temperature. It would be great also additionally to add sun, because you can also have high temperature without sun, but sun could influence on certain characteristic of the behavior of the climate effects, and of course water and wind, and this system should make possible to predict for the future by using different variables. It should make possible to monitor situation, and make analysis and prototypes of modeling of different situations. And what is also important, especially for urban areas, is that you should, this system should be compatible, or you should be possible to combine it with other data, for example, social demographic. As you can imagine, some very vulnerable groups like small young children or very elderly people, if the temperature, if there is heat wave, for example, they would probably make more have more risks for their health than other groups, and also for possible evacuation in case of floods or other things. It's also important to know which groups probably would be able to do it by themselves and which not. So this, just as an example, it would be great to make the to combine with some other data. This is
so again, it's about combining data as, yeah, okay, interesting, thank you.
Thank you.
And Martin?
Yeah, I would like to make it shorter. I think the main expectations are threefold, at least from our perspective. First one is content-wise. Especially we are trying to address two use cases, one for the floods and second for the forest fires, where there are already some real cases we managed to identify, and we do hope that this project and initiative will help us to improve the situation. The second area would be this part for the PCP, where I have to admit that from what I heard so far, it will be really interesting how, for example, these new techniques of software development, like agile approaches, will be possible to address, comparing the previous these waterfall approaches, where you had the big projects taking 1 year or even 2 years to first time to see the results of the development, and then the users were really surprised that this was not what they expected. So I really do hope that this PCP methodology will help to actually reflect what's actually today happening in the ICT world, where there is a change of really approach, how the software shall be developed, how the technology shall be used. We have new challenges with AI, and we should bear in mind and think what this can bring, what this can help, what will be the risks we shall bear in mind. And the last area where I do hope this initiative will be beneficiary is the area, I would call it area of awareness raising and communication, because I have to say that the climate change adaptation and in general climate change is still a topic which is, even for me 1 year ago, it was a relatively quite generic term, and within the last year, through this initiative and 2 others, I started to better understand how to structure this topic personally for myself, to be able to explain it to my relatives, my grandparents, in easy, understandable way. Just avoid this complex stuff behind, and to explain this thing things and consequences the best possible way. And this goes to the communication. What I really learned is that and I really like the discussion this morning, that we should really learn each from other how to cross these boxes, these bubbles, and really to find the proper way how to communicate, like we discussed across the break, to use the proper language, proper words in the proper time. And that's the crucial, because if you really are lucky that on the specific event, for the specific topic, you pass the right message, I think then you can be satisfied that you've done the best you could.
Yeah, totally true, and I totally agree with someone that has a trained communication background. I totally agree about the communication. It's always key in everything that you do, actually. You wanted to add something, Hans?
Yeah, I just want to illustrate this because about the bubbles. So the regular water management and the crisis related. Once last week I was in the flash flood breaker Interreg, as a very interesting project format as well, and they started to fight the flash floods, 21 flash floods in Germany and Belgium, Wallonia, Luxembourg and the Netherlands. And they focused on the crisis itself and the relief as a result of that, and the impact assessment. And when I was joining them, and they are also a part of our team, so they are committed, the Emscher Genossenschaft is a water authority on the German side. They are leading that Interreg project on the flash flood breaker program. And important is that they directly acknowledged that what we are trying to figure out with PCP Wise, if it's allowed to do that in the future, that they have the stepwise anticipation towards a crisis. So they want to have the water intelligence before a crisis, when it's getting extreme, and they can use the risk maps. So where are the areas where we expect flash floods? And using this intelligence, which is a cumulative building up of information of the past months or even years, structural wetting the profiles gives also indications of risk of surface runoff and therefore impact and possible casualties. And then you have to talk the same language, because if you want to work together in the same river basin, you need to understand each other's language in terms of water, but also in terms of crisis management. And that's actually what they acknowledged as a big consortium there. It's a 30 million project. There's a lot of partners there of different countries. And they really need to have this water taxonomy. So I think we already have a very good case there, of synergy between programs.
Yeah, sounds like it indeed. Mark, how are we time-wise? Is there? Yeah, wrap up. I'm not sure if there's any questions from the audience that we like to address. Yeah. I think Frans.
Thank you. Indeed, so thanks for this very interesting and insightful interventions. It's very interesting because indeed we usually don't see so often the user side, the buyer side, here in Brussels at least. You have to go out and meet them. What I was wondering a bit, so actually I found it's all very advanced areas. The Netherlands are generally, in terms of climate adaptation, you have Deltardes and you have all these amazing institutes that do an amazing job in providing all sorts of tools and things. And you said also for Helsinki, you did a lot of procurements already. So I was a bit wondering, why is the market still not delivering currently what you need? What is lacking, and why is the PCPs probably exactly the instrument that you need?
Yeah, it's a good question. We try to have it solved. It's an integrative, multidisciplinary problem we have to fight. And we have a lot of advanced companies, of course, in the Netherlands, but we need the other expertise from other countries as well. That's why addressing to all European smart SMEs, but also larger companies in combination with smart SMEs will give the proper multidisciplinary answers we need. And we are not fighting only the regular water management, but also the crisis issues, and those require total different expertises and disciplinary. So we need each other there in Europe.
Yeah, I think also maybe to add to that, what we generally see is that SMEs are focused on their own solution, which they want to bring to the market. And PCP by nature is where you pull from the market what you want. So it forces, especially SMEs, and of course in innovation it's usually startup or small companies, it forces them to cooperate, which they not only, and generally they don't do out of themselves that often. So that's why when you combine this innovative knowledge in the market, that's where you get the real magic, so to speak. Yeah.
Just to complement as well, we as cities, we need a lot of different things. That's also one thing to take into consideration. And often it is the case that standalone solutions, they are not really compatible to be uptaken on a large scale by cities, and I imagine also regions and so on, because they need to be integratable to the existing processes and tools. They need to be, for example, there are regulatory constraints and so on. So that's whole of a process that needs to be done. And for example, the PCP offers a very ideal platform to that because it has the 3 phases. You go from the design all the way to the piloting. And that's really helpful to help us understand actually what we need to do as a city to utilize those solutions, and also for the solution developers, because normally they often are small companies, to understand also what they need to do in order to be able to have a mature solution that can be rapidly uptaken by public authorities. So it is a cumbersome process. And in the case of the water management, we also had to look internally, because it's a little bit of that kind of chicken and the egg concept that, you know, maybe the people responsible for monitoring the water levels in the city, they don't think that they need a solution. They might think, well, we've been doing this way and we're happy with it. So they don't see the potential that having such type of solutions as the one that we've been discussing here can have for them and for the city overall, because it has to do also with our climate adaptation and mitigation plans, which are really important for the survivability of the city in the long term.
Okay, thank you. If you keep it short.
Sure. Hard question, but I would have 2 perceptions on that question. First one would go for the demand side. I think the role of the public sector here is to ensure that sooner or later there will be some regulatory framework stronger than these days to actually define what shall be provided from the market to the public services, and then the market can relatively easily adapt to those requirements and provide the solutions. And we see these days when we are, for example, procuring certain systems and technologies where as there is no well-established standard or well-established piece of legislation, then we used to call it gray waters. So we do our best, but whatever we receive from the procurement, then we have a very difficult period to make sure that whatever we will buy, we have to be really strict to ensure that we will get what we wanted to get. So I think the challenges are also on the public service side, but also on the business itself. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing your view. And upon that note, I think we will wrap up. Oh, no, another question, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I tried to map the previous session about how protect, let's say, prepare the PCP and this one. And something is not clear to me in the sense that you talked about you need a multidisciplinary team to build a solution. Where in the next session we learned, I think it was you presenting it, you have a catalog of EO providers. How will you ensure that the multidisciplinary team finds itself in a very short way? Because in the end, you mentioned you need 8 months more or less to come up with a tender for the solution design, and then they have basically a few dozens of days to form a consortium, provide a solution, and if they are not in the first stage, they will never come in the second and the third stage. So do we have an idea how to manage that complexity?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have already tackled this issue on a national level. So we combined civil engineering, larger companies with small SMEs specialized in typical remote sensing applications. So they found each other in the Dutch market. But with the Protect paint workshop, they found of the paint workshop, paint point workshops. You found already matchmaking. You had the OMC. You had also the different disciplines addressed, not only from the buyer side but also from the provider side. And I think there we have a good mix of different type of companies. I think the hydrology companies and the civil engineering companies may be more triggered still. So we have to do an active awareness among the hydrological and hydraulic civil engineering companies in Europe. That's, I think, not a good thing to do. And also more the civil engineering in terms of cities. So like maintenance of assets like roads and sewage systems, and also the buildings maintenance. It's very important to understand what type of disciplines we can address there as well. It's the companies who do that regularly. So that's what I call about multidisciplinary, but we have to do this awareness for sure, and we have not that much time. So we have 8, you're right. Yeah.
And if I can add, in the frame of Protect, we actually hold a webinar in February for the providers to showcase to them the results and the outcomes of the open market consultations, where we encourage the providers to, through a matchmaking platform, to reach out to each other in order to establish potential collaborations and solutions towards the goal that PCP Wise is presenting now. In the frame of Protect, this happened. I know that the idea would be that in the beginning of the PCP Wise will be to reassess the mapping that has been conducted in the frame of Protect, to update it accordingly to the goals of this project. So since already the providers involved in the Protect are having the idea and the acknowledgement of the potential solutions, it's just going to build up on that.
Thank you.
Thank you for most of those questions, and very relevant, especially the last one about how we move forward. But any other points? So I think we can thank Matti and her panel for their excellent job. For the end of the day, you've kept us more than stimulated, so thank you very much.
Thank you for staying with us.